Hello my friends, this is the fourth and final of our series on the four Brahmaviharas, the four Immeasurables, which are mentioned in the Yoga Sutras way back thousands of years ago in India, and form a key part in the Hindu tradition. They also very much so come to fore in the Buddhist tradition, and probably more to more effect, really, and more substantially. More is made of them, shall we say, than probably in the Hindu traditions. So we've been on a journey here. We've been looking at how the first of the four Brahmaviharas, metta, which is loving kindness, how really everything kind of flows out from there. Loving kindness being seen as almost like a type of universal friendship, being friends with everybody, but also there's an element which we can relate to the Judeo-Christian principles of love, which is kind of a universal love of God, love from God, which is not a kind of a normal human love, if you like. It's an unconditional love. It's the sort of love that a mother would have for a child, should we say. There's something more deeply divine about this kind of love. And then we looked at how we added depth and volume to the whole concept of loving kindness. First of all, by looking at karuna, which means compassion. And compassion we saw as not being a sort of a sympathy or even an empathy, but more of an active coming alongside those that we find who are in a position of suffering. So karuna coming from the same root word as the word karma, and karma certainly has that element of action, and action is something that's called for with karuna. It's not just a passive sort of bystander type of role. It's more coming alongside someone, actively doing something to help in a time of crisis, in a time of pain and suffering, that sort of thing. And then we came to the other side of the coin, which is mudita, which means empathetic joy. So as opposed to seeing those who are suffering around us, we also see those around us who are happy, joyful. They're going through a good time, they're having a good phase in their lives. And the natural human response can be to be jealous, to be envious, to be resentful almost to those that we see, especially if something is happening good to them and we feel that that's something that's lacking in our experience, in our life, or something that we feel that we deserve more. But of course, as we've been on this spiritual journey, we've seen that surrender and sacrifice are important parts of love, and how we can actually express that out to the world. So we looking at mudita there, we saw that as we take joy in the joy and happiness and success of others, we can actually receive joy to ourselves. It doesn't have to be the motivating factor, but it's one of those things. The more we are joyful for others, the more we add to our own joy, the happier we become. It's easier to see this as with karuna, compassion. It's easier to see it often with those who are closest to us, who we feel the greatest connection to those we love, those who are close to us, close friends, close relatives, partners, etc., even pets. It's easy to be compassionate to them. It's easy to share in their joy when something joyful happens. It's not so easy for those who we have problems with, we have issues with, those who we see as antagonistic towards us, those who maybe have hurt us, those maybe we just find generally difficult. And of course, certainly to those who we feel have really deeply hurt us in the past, etc. That's more difficult. So we looked at how moving through these different phases is a gradual process. We looked at the analogy of the onion, the layers of the onion. So starting at the centre, starting with ourselves, or for some of us it's easier to start with somebody we really love dearly, and then moving to ourselves afterwards, because that's often more difficult. It's often easier to give to someone that's close to us than we willing to receive it ourselves. Often we don't feel worthy of that. But the concept is we start inwards and we work outwards. So then after that sort of close dear friend, maybe somebody who's neutral to us, somebody that we maybe see and have a regular contact with them, maybe at work, neighbour, somebody that we just encounter maybe in the shop, something like that. Then we extend, after having felt those deep sort of emotions, we work outwards to those who are a bit more distant, and then finally we can go out to all beings. But certainly there's a place in there for extending the love, the compassion, the joy, the empathetic joy towards those who are difficult people. So we look at going out to them as well, but that's more difficult. And maybe even if there are people that are really have hurt us, then we can even start to eventually, after having worked through this process with ourselves and with those closer to us, we can start moving on to those even the most difficult people. So today we want to concentrate upon the last one of those, which is Upeksha in Sanskrit, or Upekkha in Pali language, which is most commonly used in Buddhist terms. Means exactly the same thing. It means equanimity. Now, equanimity is not a word that's commonly used in common conversation in the English language. I'll give you that. But it is a word that has a particular meaning, and we have words which kind of relate to that, like the word composure, coolness. When I say coolness, what I mean is not sort of a cool hostility, but rather staying kind of in a place where we remain cool, we remain calm. We're not tossed and turned by the extremes of our emotions. Stability, and staying unfazed, absolutely. So just to kind of explain what this concept is, if you look at the two sides that we looked at, with the compassion and the joy, it's almost like joy is kind of the high point, and suffering and compassion as its reaction to it is kind of the low point. As we go through life, there are many concepts in the Eastern philosophies, and I will be progressing on to looking at things like Taoism and Zen, which very much understand this concept of dualism, and not dualism, sorry, but the duality of existence, the yin and the yang, for instance, the light and the dark, that everything is made up of two sides, if you like. And in the spiritual path, our main thing that we need to remember is that we need to walk an even and balanced path through life. That's best for ourselves, and it's also best for those that we encounter out in the world as well. So, I mean, you might think, if I'm going through life absolutely joyful, absolutely ecstatic, singing and dancing my way through life, overjoyed by everything. That's great, that's the best way to be. But we all know that for every high there's a low, for every up there's a down. And anybody that you know who gets to that elated, ecstatic point, you can predict that they're gonna come crashing down at some point. Just as sure as the roller coaster goes up, it's going to come down again. So the way to avoid that deep dip and deep dive into the low, the depression, the way to do that is to not be so turbulent in our action, in our emotions. So it's not to say that we can't be happy about things and joyful. Certainly, as we looked last time at Mudita, we want to be joyful with those who are joyful. We want to enjoy our own lives. We've seen from looking at the chakras themselves that happiness and joy are very important concepts. There's a spiritual depth to those things, and we're looking at, for instance, the sacral chakra. We see that pleasure is an important factor in our life. So we want to live a happy and a pleasant life. But life is always going to have its ups and downs. The river will always flow the way the river wants to flow. And as I've talked about before, trying to swim upstream in a river is going to cause us difficulties. The best way is to go with the current as it flows. And as life's ups and downs come, as the good times come and as the bad times come, to keep an even, balanced posture, if you like, an even keel through life as we go, is the best possible way to manage it. And it's the best way to be prepared, because if we come from the middle ground, whatever we face is not going to be too far out of our range to manoeuvre. If you can imagine being in that stream. If we're way over on this bank over here, then it's going to be more difficult than if we are centered and moving in a central path. And as we looked at with the chakras and the Brahmaviharas, balance is very important, to be balanced. So looking at the challenges to living this equanimous life, this life of balance, this life of this life of living an even spiritual path. One of the big challenges is duality itself, and the whole concept of duality is that as we go through life, we tend as human beings to kind of put a label on everything, whether if something is good or bad, whether it's up or down, black or white. We like to put labels on things, and we like to compare things and say, this is better than that thing, this is worse than that thing, etc. But the problem with that is that the only way that one is able to judge whether something is good is in comparison to something else. So we will always be making a comparison. And if you refer this to people that we meet, people in our lives, then we will always be judging people as to their qualities. And the truth is that there is good and there is bad in you, in me, in everybody. None of us is absolutely perfect. And we certainly don't like to be judged ourselves. We may be happy to judge ourselves personally from our own perspective, or even berate ourselves for things that we do, but we don't tend to like it when others make judgments about us. But of course, it's not just us, it's about anything. It can be something simple like the weather. The number of times people speak to me, because I often tend to be outside a lot when I work, and the people that I come across will say, oh, what a horrible day today because it's raining, or oh, terrible weather we're having this week. It's so windy, or whatever. And equally they'll say, what a fantastic day, the sunshine, or if they're that way inclined, oh, I don't like too much sun, it's just too hot and I can't cope with it. But always there's a comparison, there's a duality in it. And the challenge for equanimity is that we want to cut this down to the minimum. We want to walk through life and we want to accept the things that are happening around us. I'm not talking about things like injustice or violence or things like that. The evils that are done by people, so much as what I'm talking about is the general flow of our life as we go through. We know that not everything is necessarily going to be to our liking. Not necessarily everything is going to be what we think is wonderful. But we know that for every good, there is a bad. For every up, there's a down. For every bad thing that happens to us, there are also a lot of good things that happen to us. For those who dwell in the past, they are doomed probably to depression. For those who dwell permanently in the future, they are probably destined to anxiety. And constantly having expectations in the future is likely to lead to disappointment. Constantly dwelling on the past is likely to make us possibly dread today, because we're worried that we're going to kind of relive those things if we're not already reliving them in our mind anyway. But equanimity is about taking that even central path. It's about balance. Just like a set of scales, for every positive there has to be a negative. And this is something that we will be going through a bit more in more detail as we start to go through our next set of teachings. So, non-discrimination. There's so much discrimination in the world, and as I say, it starts at an early age when we told all we are. We come to our own choices, maybe through things that happen to us, but more often than not, we're told maybe about our parents, maybe our teachers, maybe the society that we live in, that certain things are good and certain things are bad, certain things are better than others. And a lot of those things are absolutely subjective to a person's own preferences and tastes, but we then impose them upon other people. Who says that rain is bad? To a farmer that has planted the crops, rain is a blessing. To somebody whose crops are withering in the blazing heat, the sun is not a blessing. But if I'm going on my holidays to the beach, I don't really want to be drenched by the rain, and I don't really want my party in the garden to be spoilt by a sudden thunderstorm. But to somebody somewhere, good could be coming out of that thing. Even things like suffering in our life, which is a difficult topic, but many things that we suffer in our lives and go through have a positive effect of building character in us. There's an old Chinese proverb tale of the farmer who had a horse, and that horse escaped one night and ran away. And his friends came to him and they said, "How terrible that your horse has run away." To which the farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back and brought with it 7 other horses. And the farmer's friends came to him and they said, "How wonderful! You will be rich. You have all of these horses." And the farmer replied, maybe. Shortly afterwards, the farmer's son was breaking in the horses by riding them, and he fell from the horse and broke his leg. To which the farmer's friends came and said, how terrible, your son has broken his leg. Now how will he continue to work and help you on the farm with the various tasks, etc.? That's a terrible calamity that's occurred there. To which the farmer replied, maybe. Shortly afterwards, the army came through with a recruitment drive to recruit all of the young men in the region to go to war. And because the farmer's son had this broken leg and was incapacitated, the recruiting people for the army passed him by, and the farmer's friend came and said, how wonderful, what a blessing that your son did not have to go to the war. To which the farmer, of course, replied, maybe. And the whole point of this story is we really don't know, because we can't see the big scheme of things, whether something that might seem good or something that might seem bad to us, how it's really going to pan out. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important to walk this path of equanimity, of balance, because we don't actually know. So by all means, as we go through life, rejoice when something good happens, maybe mourn, maybe grieve when something bad, tragic happens, but our goal is to take the middle road through, to be not phased, not completely driven to distraction by things. After all, being too obsessed and too overjoyed by any one thing leads to things like obsession and addiction. We see that in many people that we know probably. To be too downcast when something bad happens leads to terrible depression, even in extreme cases to suicide. So that's why the fourth of the four Immeasurables, the four Brahmaviharas, is so important. It ties together this whole package, if you like. It brings it all together. So I hope this has made some sense to you. I hope you will be able to incorporate this into your meditation. And what I would say for when we meditate upon the fourth Brahmavihara, Upeksha, what we should do is use the original affirmations that we use with loving kindness, certainly. May I or you be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. May I be free from emotional suffering. May I live in peace. And may I live a balanced and even life. And this, of course, is what we extend out to those around us as well, in the ever increasing circles, in the different layers of the onion as it grows outwards. I've gone through several of the mudras that we can use. Again, it's good to use maybe this one for the heart, the Anahata mudra, or maybe something like the inner smile mudra is a good one as well. And of course, we can. I'm not a practitioner of one set type of meditation, as you may have gathered, but I like to incorporate lots of different aspects of different meditation traditions into my own practice, and you might find this helps you as well. So by all means, look back on the other videos, have a look what you can take, what you can bring into your meditation practice. But with the whole concept of the 4 Brahmaviharas, it's not just about sitting in meditation. It's about our whole lives being a meditation. And if we relate this back to the chakra system, we can see that loving kindness, compassion, joy for others, and the final one today, equanimity, they all proceed from the heart, from the Anahata chakra, because they are all extensions of our love. And as we've talked about before, our hands, our arms are extension of the heart, because that's what we give and we show love to others through. So please use this in your daily practice, but take it into your daily lives as well. And as you meet others along the way, as you interact with others, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's people that you just have as acquaintances, or whether it's even the people that are more difficult in your life, then all the 4 Brahmaviharas are very powerful in taking us to that place where we actually start to inhabit that place where the divine lives. And remember, the divine, Brahman, the true self, is seated on the throne of our hearts, that 1,000-petaled lotus. And as we see that love in our heart, as we express that love outwards to others, then we become more of the divine to them. They start to see the divine in their own lives as well. So thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments at all, you can pop them in the comments box below. If you enjoy these talks and you want to hear more of them, then please think of subscribing to the channel. Hit the little bell there and you will receive notifications when we upload new ones. So for the time being, all that remains for me to say is thank you for joining us on this journey, and Namaskaram.